Hello, everybody. John Pollock here alongside Jimmy Korderas. We are coming out of the WWE TLC event from Minneapolis, Minnesota on Sunday night. And on Friday afternoon, just as I was about to upload the podcast version of our preview, I took a stick of dynamite, placed it into our preview, and it exploded because it was pretty much irrelevant, I would say.
Well, boom goes the dynamite, as the old saying goes. And now I kind of know how our friend of the show, Dave Meltzer, friend of the laws, feels on Tuesdays when breaking news happens after he's already done his newsletter.
Yeah, so numerous changes. We don't have to go through all of them because anyone watching this is aware of what the changes were. But what did you think of how they handled the situation? Apparently it was Thursday. They learned of the fact Roman Reigns wouldn't be on the show. They had the issue with Bray Wyatt as well. They're calling it a viral infection, but just given this being so last minute, how did you think they handled the changes, and did you like them?
Actually, I think they handled it very well, and I like the changes that they made. And the reason I like them is because you needed something to Roman Reigns taken out of that main event totally throws, like you said, a stick of dynamite under the main event, and you needed something big to replace that and to replace that person in the main event. Looking up and down the roster, I'm thinking to myself, who fits that bill that would create enough buzz that'll make people want to tune in, and even those that were still on the fence with Roman Reigns in the picture, make them go, oh, wait a minute. This kind of changes things a little bit. Maybe I'm interested to see what happens. And fitting Kurt Angle in there, I think, accomplished that. And again, moving on to the other replacement, Bray Wyatt, it almost worked. Well,
broke our hearts.
Yeah, broke our hearts immensely. But let's be honest. Again, looking up and down the roster, who do you put in against Finn Balor to replace Bray Wyatt? People have been clamoring, especially the diehards and the hardcore fans that are fans of New Japan and know the history of one Finn Balor and the Bullet Club and know the association of AJ Styles with the Bullet Club. Yes, he's coming over from SmackDown, but it also serves two purposes. One, it's the dream match that people want to see, those hardcore fans. Plus, it kind of sets up a little bit maybe the direction they're going for Survivor Series in the Raw versus SmackDown kind of battle.
Yeah, and realistically, I mean, you can look at the fact Kurt Angle, probably not your ideal comeback to do it in 2 days, but I thought that it was simply to do something big, and it was big. I don't think anyone's interest was diminished as a result of these changes, and I think for the majority, they were enhanced by the changes made at the last minute as well. And when you're looking up and down the roster of other replacements, I mean, they kind of fall short. I mean, you could have looked at someone like a Matt Hardy being involved in some kind of a ladder match, just given the nature of the show. But really, Matt Hardy hasn't very much been presented at that level where I feel him as being inserted to face Finn Balor, for instance. I don't know how people would have taken to that as compared to the option they went with. So I think most would agree it was a stronger lineup overall, just in terms of curiosity and interest going into Sunday night. So we can start off with the TLC match where Kurt Angle... First of all, what did you think of the idea of putting him in the Shield attire as opposed to his traditional singlet?
Actually, I kind of liked it. I guess, you could say for cosmetic reasons, maybe it hides a little bit because, let's face it, he had 2 days' notice to get kind of in ring shape, and anybody who's ever been in the ring will tell you 2 days is not enough to get in ring shape. So I will give him...
Especially at 48, even if you're Kurt Angle.
Even if you're Kurt Angle. He is a cyborg, though. So it does help. But I like that little touch. It kind of showed a little bit of unity there amongst the group. And
I also like the fact that they've saved his traditional entrance with the pyro and in the singlet and everything, maybe even wearing the gold medal. Save that for a big match, which I think everyone expects coming out of this. So don't give away everything. Much like we said last week about doing the Shield entrance, maybe they were ahead of the curve and knew, let's give the Shield entrance away on Monday because we won't get it on Sunday.
Right. That could have been it. But I almost half expected him when they did the spot where he was taken out of the match for a little while, when he did the Spirit of 76 come back and make the big comeback and save. I almost half expected him to be in the singlet, when they hit his music. And I was like, oh, is he going to be in the red, white, and blue? No, he was still in the Shield. Now that you said save it for the right time, that's kind of cool. I feel
why not? Save something for a future match. Now, in terms of how Kurt Angle was utilized in this match, when it was announced this guy, 48-year-old Kurt Angle, with all of his issues and problems with his neck, TLC match was not the kind of match I was anticipating for this guy to be a part of. That said, I thought they reduced the risk as much as they could. There was that nasty fall he kind of took on top of his head on the edge of the apron at one point. But other than that, I mean, this was not an insanity-filled match from any of the guys. There was some insanity, but in terms of the risk factor, I was kind of glad that they dialed it down, especially for Kurt Angle, who at times was his own worst enemy and would never see those limitations and would just go out there and kill himself.
Yeah, and I could see several WWE officials, including Vince McMahon, probably taking Kurt aside and sitting him down, saying, "Kurt, we know your past. We know how passionate you are and how you want to perform, but let's just dial it down a notch and still get to where we want to go without taking those unnecessary risks that sometimes he would take, just in the sake of the performance." You could tell at certain times, I do like the fact that they didn't have any other gimmick matches, no other chairs or tables or ladder matches, because if those matches would have taken place, like you said, having dialed down this main event a little bit to protect maybe Kurt a little bit or for whatever reason it was, if you'd had those other matches, all those spots with the ladders and with the chairs and with the tables would have been less effective. At least saving it for the main event at least made it seem more like it was more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so this ended up becoming a TLC GT match because we had a garbage truck involved. This is a very long match. I will say it certainly dragged at parts for me. It went 35 minutes, which is lengthy and seems to be, well, at least this month has been kind of the directive on pay-per-view is that they have super long main events coming off the Owens-Shane match earlier this month. In terms of just the overall flow, they did take Kurt out of this match for the middle portion of the match, and then, as you mentioned, the big comeback, and then we had Kane and Braun turn on one another. Braun Strowman, as of Monday morning, we assume has died via a garbage truck, and then it ended with the Shield powerbomb and Kurt pinning The Miz.
I'm half expecting, like you said, as of Monday morning, I'm expecting Monday night to see a little video vignette of maybe a dumpster somewhere or a pile of trash somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
God, I hope that garbage truck is driven into Raw on Monday night and Braun emerges from the garbage.
Just busts out of it, kind of Braun smash kind of thing. Either that or out of the garbage dump, you see the hand come out. Of the garbage, and then you go,
to take on the mayoral candidate Kane.
Yes.
Yeah. But overall thoughts on the match? I will say this: I feel that with Roman Reigns in this would have been a better match. I'm not saying it was a bad main event. I thought it could have been a stronger match at maybe 22 minutes as opposed to 35. That would be my criticism. Yeah,
it's one of those matches where maybe our old friend less is more. Would have sufficed in this match. Like you said, you know what? I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, Roman Reigns if he was there in this match, he thrives in these kind of matches as well. So, maybe it would have upped the ante, so to speak, a little bit. But I thought the match was fine. Like you said, maybe a little bit long, but other than that, I was happy with Kurt's performance. He looked like I thought. The right ending took place. I mean, they told several stories in the match. Obviously, it looks like Braun Strowman and Kane are going to peel off. We have the issues with Miz and Authority, as he always has, whether it was SmackDown or Raw. You can continue that story and just hope that Jason Jordan kind of stays with Elias for now and doesn't get mixed up in that thing.
And then we have, coming out of this, I mean, they really hit it hard on this pay-per-view, the fact that Survivor Series will be Raw versus SmackDown. So we will see now where things go for everybody involved. Right. Roman Reigns is expected to be gone at least this week, if not longer. So it's very difficult the way that they have to now plan for this pay-per-view coming up next month when you have a bunch of question marks on both Raw and SmackDown with talent that isn't available at the moment.
Right, but the saving grace in all this is there is a little bit of time in between as of Monday morning, last night's pay-per-view, and the Survivor Series coming up. We have at least about just under a month. So there is some time, so hopefully people can get better and get back to work.
Would you have Kurt in a match at Survivor Series?
I would save it. I think too soon. I mean, like you had that match. Maybe save it for. Would you go Rumble maybe or
The only match that there feels. I mean, you're either starting from scratch with a program, which to me 4 weeks. Yeah. I'd wait too. I would wait as well. Yeah. But the only match on the horizon for him is The Miz.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we necessarily need to see that. It goes counter to the whole theme that they seem to be promoting the Survivor Series around with Raw versus SmackDown. Myself, I would rather they just wait unless they have a dynamite idea, which, I mean, you could certainly pick someone off the SmackDown roster or someone and it's a interesting match, but I would like to see Kurt's return really built up now. You got a taste of it on Sunday without giving away too much. And now you can build up to something bigger for Mania season.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're thinking along the lines of authority figure versus authority figure, can you imagine maybe at WrestleMania a Shane versus Kurt rematch?
Oh dear.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm dreading the idea of it only from the fact that I don't think Kurt at 48 should be suffering from Spudamania.
Yeah, well, those two, I mean, the bar is so high of what those two did in their first match that I don't know if that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Kurt also mentioned on Raw Talk after the fact that he called up Shane for a favor, and with AJ Styles coming over for the pay-per-view, not remembering that Shane has been suspended indefinitely. He has no power over on SmackDown. So maybe Kurt subtly admitting he does not watch SmackDown.
Oh, or just didn't want to throw out the Daniel Bryan thing because there's already the controversy there from his tweet last night.
Yes. Well, maybe that is the match people will want. The match they are not going to get.
Right.
The match they will want.
Of course.
The other replacement was AJ Styles taking on Finn Balor. I thought this was the best match on the show. Yep. Crowd just loved this before the match even began. And I thought that this was the kind of match both guys needed because Finn Balor has been just dying a death on Raw in this Bray Wyatt feud. And to be honest, AJ Styles has kind of been somewhat diminished over on SmackDown. I thought both really just needed to go out, have a fantastic match. I thought it was Balor's best match since coming back from his injury, and I thought it was AJ's best match in some time as well. After the Kevin Owens feud, to me, they never had that standout big match, and then he got into the feud with Baron Corbin. So I thought both really needed this. I didn't think either was hurt by the loss because of the fact that you had a great 17, 18-minute match. Finn Balor wins on his home brand. You could do a rematch down the road at some point. You could even do a rematch at Survivor Series if you really wanted to. What I hope happens is that the Bray Wyatt feud is never referenced again, and we just move on from it. That would be my preference.
We could hope because let's face it. This change, like they always say, the card's subject to change. This change that happened in the card benefited Finn Balor greatly because not only did we get a great match out of it, but it also elevated him in his match with AJ Styles. And this was a match, of course, a lot of people were looking forward to. Some people were complaining, but there's no story going into it. And sometimes you don't need a story other than the fact that you've got two guys that are really good and really want to compete and to see who is the best. I mean, like sometimes
the audience certainly felt there was a story before they even locked up.
Yeah, and those who are in the know, who know both men's past history,
the Notorious Club,
the Notorious Club. Boy, that's a hell of a T-shirt waiting to happen. I know, obviously, for legal reasons. I don't know. I'm assuming because New Japan owns the rights to the Bullet Club.
Yeah, WWE doesn't want to be sent to cease and desist.
It's just they're the ones who usually. Never mind. Anyways,
there was a guy with a cease and desist shirt right facing the hard camera during this match, which is great.
Yeah. So, but we got a really good match. Was it blowaway? I don't know. It was very good. It was very good. It was very enjoyable, and it was a match that
this wasn't the greatest match in the world, but it was certainly the best match on this card.
Yeah, and you know what? And it appealed to that hardcore audience who's been dying for them to cater to them for a while, and that's exactly what they did with this match. Is they catered to that hardcore audience.
Yeah. So we'll see where they go now with Finn Balor, and with AJ, it seems like he's involved in this television program with Jinder Mahal, even though Mahal is facing Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. So it's weird. The SmackDown, they've outlined all these programs that feel designed for television when you're doing this larger Raw versus SmackDown theme. So.
Oh, and one last thing, just had to throw it out there.
Be careful.
I can't do that here? Can I? Uh-oh.
Next we had
Edit.
Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. Worked over the shoulder of Mickie James throughout the match and then ended with DDT, and Alexa won the match clean.
Yeah, a good match, though. I thought it was fine. It served its purpose. I didn't have a problem with it. Told a nice little story, of course. Working a body part. How novel. What a great idea. I thought the post-match interview was a little bit much. I'm not digging that they do that. I mean, especially when it's like going into the loser's locker room after they lost a Super Bowl, and now this person has to pretend to be magnanimous.
It's like 30 seconds after the match, and Charlie gets into the ring saying, "Mickie, you must be so disappointed." It's like you just want to see Mickie just nail Charlie.
It's just like, no kidding. Yeah, I don't like that aspect of it, because if you're presenting this as a legit combat sport, it's not UFC where you're interviewing both guys and stuff like that. This is different. It just for me, it doesn't work.
Just that '92 World Series where the reporter from CBS runs out to Otis Nixon. "You must be so disappointed. You went for that bunt."
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays are your World Series champions.
Right.
But this was a fine match. It was, to me, I had low expectations because I had seen their television matches earlier this year and they did not click. Right. And this was a marked improvement.
Oh,
so
definitely.
I think people will. They should have been happy with the match. Asuka's debut against Emma. I'll say at the end of the show, I don't know if Asuka was necessarily. Like, to me, the debut was the easy one because it was just go out there and be Asuka. But I don't know if this really left the imprint on people by the end of the show. How did you think about how she was introduced? Audience certainly reacted big to her entrance.
Right.
But the match, to me, it seemed it was almost as much about bringing Emma up a step rather than just being a showcase for Asuka.
Okay, here's where Captain Cliche comes in again. I'm on the fence here, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
There it is, everyone.
There's that T-shirt. I'm trying to get the T-shirt out there. But here's what I'm okay with the match, but I'm not perfectly fine with the match, if you know what I mean. It was. I would have preferred Asuka to be more dominant in the match. I'm fine with Emma getting some offense in.
Yep.
I think she got a little bit too much offense in. It's just it was about 9-minute match,
yes.
And it was fairly 50-50, I would say. I would have preferred it to be 6 minutes, maybe. I don't want a complete squash. I mean, and if it was a complete squash, then it's kind of like, well, then that's her debut. But who did she beat? She beat a no one. Then you know what I mean? It comes off. It's
I feel
line.
with what they set out to do with the match with Emma. Maybe Emma wasn't the right person to do it with because she's not portrayed like that on Raw. And for those that bring up their matches from NXT, very different set of circumstances with those, where Emma was a pushed heel at the time and she's more a comedy figure on Raw. Right. That if you want to go out and do that, then put Sasha Banks in and do a competitive 13-minute match and Asuka wins a war in her first night and establishes herself. Go that direction. This, to me, felt like, well, we don't have the right person for that, but we're going to do this as much to bring up Emma here, which is all fine and good, but sometimes you just have to, what is the goal of this match? It's to get Asuka over, and we can't make everybody happy, and Emma's job is to get Asuka over tonight, and we're not focusing on her tonight.
Exactly, and for all those naysayers who are already spelling the doom for Asuka, it's the first night. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit and relax. Everybody obviously points to Bayley's entrance into the WWE to the main roster from NXT and how the ball was dropped there. I think they learned their lesson from that a little bit, I'm hoping, at least anyways, because the introduction of Asuka was great as far as, a month and a half or 2 months of building with these vignettes, which Bayley didn't get or Paige didn't get, and any other woman who graduated from NXT to the main roster didn't get. And the only one really that graduated that kind of like is Charlotte. But she's got almost like a built-in gimmick to help her. The others needed something to get them over the hump and introduced to the main roster. Asuka's had that. It's now, again, that golf analogy that I make. It's up. What do you do with your next shot? Hopefully tonight it's sitting on the green and not in the sand trap.
Yeah, and great analogy there, Jimmy. It looks to be probably like the women will be in their own Raw versus SmackDown elimination match, which we'll see how that dynamic works too, because you would figure Alexa and Asuka and Nia Jax all have to be part of that. And it always becomes tricky for these Survivor Series matches where you got to put everything on hold, and then you get the teammates that can't get along, and how much of that will be overkill by the time we get to Survivor Series.
Right.
We shall see. A match that I thought was a pleasant surprise, not so much because it was a good match, I felt it would be, but the audience was into it, and that was the Cruiserweight tag with Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann, who to me are a great tag team together. I really enjoy these two. They're very underrated in this company and could be just part of your regular tag division on Raw. Defeating the team of Jack Gallagher and Brian Kendrick. I enjoyed this a lot. It was about 8 minutes, and the crowd was into it. They did not treat this as intermission or anything like that, even though these are relatively cold characters on Raw, but they did not feel like it on this particular match. And yeah, I really like Alexander and Swann together.
Yeah, I enjoy them too. I agree with you, John. But and the other thing too is that they were presented on the main card, because we already knew that there was going to be a Cruiserweight title match on the main card, and not relegated to the pre-show. A lot of people thought that maybe this tag match would be relegated to the pre-show. By having it on the pay-per-view proper, so to speak, it gave it that feeling that it had more importance, and it gave it a platform where that the audience can actually see this and enjoy it. And now I think they're starting to get connected with the characters more. And do you put that onus on Enzo, where people are starting to actually tune in or not? I don't know, but I like them. I like the tag match. I thought it was a really good tag match. That one is one of those ones where it maybe could have gone a few minutes longer, so it didn't feel as rushed. But that said, it was still a good match.
And that takes us to the Cruiserweight title match. This would be my pick for worst match of the night between Kalisto and Enzo, who just looked like a guy. You know when you try slide across ice? That's like what it was like watching Enzo here. Graceful as an elephant on skates is Enzo. Wins the title back. We just pressed the 2-week reset to go right back to where we started. Yep. Title change was kind of irrelevant, and I just thought this match did not work in any way, shape, or form.
Well, since you brought up the skating and the ice reference, I'll bring up a hockey reference. It's kind of like when you play a pickup game of hockey with your friends. And we used to play pickup hockey. It was a weekly thing. And one of the guys that used to play with us was a guy who was drafted in the NHL, really good. He was actually captain of the Toronto Marlies when they had a junior team here in Toronto. Really good player. I mean, could just wipe the floor with anybody on the ice, any one of us. And he struggled in the fact that when you're a guy at that level that is so good, the guys that are around you that aren't good get in your way because they react in a way you don't expect them to. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is if I skate this way, this is how he's going to probably react. But because he's not as versed as you are, he just ends up getting in your way and buggering you up. I think that's what Enzo does in the ring. You expect you know
the ultimate challenge for these talented cruiserweights.
I think so, and the match quality is suffering from it. Sure, he can talk up a storm, and how poetic justice works sometimes when he had a little bit of laryngitis. He was able to force out that promo last night, but it was forced a little bit because of the. And
then they made him do a post-match promo as well.
Yeah.
Just in case there was anything left of
It's
his
almost
voice.
like constant. How can we rib Enzo more?
Yeah, maybe they could have sent him out for commentary for the tag match.
Oh, that would have been fun.
So we're right back to where we started. Enzo's won the title, but now he's got backup with his cruiser, the heel cruiserweights.
Yeah, so it kind of feeds into that. So now I don't like the fact that he has a posse, so to speak.
And then we had these vignettes throughout the show with Elias coming out to perform his song, and Jason Jordan started throwing lettuce at him. Pelted him.
Yes.
And then to set up a match later in the night where this was right in between Styles and Balor and before the TLC match. So this audience just wanted to get to the main event.
Yeah.
This was not only the death spot of the show, but it was also unannounced. So the crowd, I don't think, was really into this. The match was whatever. Ends with the inside cradle with the shoulders getting up. So we'll get a rematch out of
Probably.
that. Jordan wins.
It wasn't a bad match.
It was a tough spot and late in the show.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is designed to be the buffer match between the two matches that people want to see, and that's an unfortunate situation for some guys to be in. But that's what happens when you book a card. Sometimes you have to be that match, the popcorn match, the curtain jerker, as they say, or whatever you want to call it. They were the buffer match that night, and yes, we'll probably get a rematch. And I will say this: I don't know if this is true, but according to Jason Agnew, it was not lettuce. He swears up and down, as he said on the Law this Sunday, that it was kale.
Oh, well, in that case.
I don't know. I guess I don't mind. I like kale, but I couldn't tell if he was throwing kale. But to me, when you don't like a performance, don't you throw tomatoes? Isn't it supposed to be tomatoes?
Well, you can't do color. It's PG.
Oh, that's right. Damn. Okay.
So
Good call. Good call.
And then we had Sasha Banks beating Alicia Fox on the pre-show, which I thought was fine. The audience was into it, and it was fine. Average kickoff match.
Served its purpose on the pre-show to get the audience in their seats.
So I think the high points of the show were certainly, for me, the Balor Styles match, and I thought the TLC match people were generally happy with. So a thumbs in the middle show for me. And I don't know if I would have been saying that with the previous lineup, where I think you would have got a Dynamite TLC match, but you definitely would have been talking about Balor having the best match on the show with Bray Wyatt. Right. So I think overall this probably tilted my thumbs into the middle as opposed to down.
Actually, I'm going to tilt it a little bit up because we did get that better outcome especially in the Finn Balor
that was
Styles match.
A gigantic increase.
Yeah, that definitely benefited both guys.
So now they get set for the Survivor Series, which is coming up next month, where they will be in Houston, Texas for 4 straight nights with TakeOver. The Survivor Series, which on the graphic, special start time 7 p.m., meaning a kickoff at 6 o'clock. So just there goes your life, Survivor Series weekend.
As of now, 4 hours, which we know can turn into longer than that.
It could be a very, very long night.
Yeah.
So that is when we will be back next. So you can go get all of your information up at liveaudiowrestling.com. Follow him at Jimmy Korderas, at Law Radio, and we will speak with you next month ahead of Survivor Series.